What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to bring you another one of my 2014 WCQ H.A.T format deck profiles. The deck I want to show off today is one that a lot of people have requested I profile, and that is Dragunity. Dragunity is a really cool deck that has taken a ton of different forms over the span of its lifetime, and in H.A.T format, it's in an interesting place. The reason I say that is because Dragon Ravine is banned, which is their field spell that allows them to either dump cards or add different Dragunities from deck to hand, so that is very unfortunate, but the deck still can do a lot of really cool plays, and this build specifically, I wanted to take advantage of their really good OTK potential that they have. And in general, if you guys don't know much about Dragunity, it's a deck full of Wing Beast and Dragon type monsters that can make some really solid synchros, and it's based on equipping different Dragunity monsters to your other monsters, and then those equips have different effects and such. So it's a pretty cool deck, and I'm excited to show this off, so let's get straight into it. So starting off with the monsters, I wanted to show this off first, simply because it is going to come up with a lot of your different cards, and again, it's your main guy that you want to equip. So what this is Dragunity Phalanx. It's a level 2 tuner, and it has the effect that once per turn, while this card is equipped to a monster as an equip card by a card effect, you can special summon this card. So what that means is if you have an effect that equips it, then you're able to special summon it, and that is a soft once per turn. So a lot of times you will be equipping this multiple times throughout the turn, and you're able to keep summoning it from being an equip, which is really good to help keep synchro climbing and making really good pushes. I play one other level 2 tuner, and that is going to be the Dragunity Eccles, or should I say one more Dragunity level 2 tuner, and the one copy of Eccles. This was just the next best one. And what this one does is when it's normal summon, you can special summon a Dragunity monster from your hand and then equip this card to it. And so basically what that means is I'll normal summon this, special summon a different Dragunity, and then this one will move to the back row as an equip card. And then its secondary effect is when this card is sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, you select a card on the field and destroy it. Now, this card is very good as well, but the one thing you have to keep in mind with this is that secondary effect is mandatory. So you don't really want to leave this out turn 1, especially against a lot of decks like the artifact decks and things that this deck already sort of struggle with. And the reason I say that is because that effect being mandatory means if your opponent starts their turn by MSTing this, you have to trigger this and destroy a card on the field. And if they started their turn with MST, it means only you are going to have board presence, so you will have to pop your own card. So just be very careful with this one. After that, we play 3 copies of Dragunity Ducks. This one gains a bit of an attack boost for each Dragunity card you control, and then when it's normal summoned, you can select a level 3 or lower dragon type Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip it to this card. That's very important for a couple reasons. First, because it will be able to equip your Phalanx, and Phalanx can then summon, but 2, because it's a level 4, meaning that when you summon back your Phalanx, which is the level 2 tuner, you're able to make a level 6, and the main Dragunity synchro that you want to be summoning to get more of your plays going and kind of synchro climbing is a level 6, so very important card. After that, we have 3 copies of Dragunity Arma Mistleton. This one has the effect that you can special summon it from the hand by sending a face-up Dragunity monster you control to the graveyard, and then when it's normal or special summoned from the hand, you can select a dragon-type Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip it to this card. A couple things to note with that is, 1, that is not a once per turn, so if you have multiple of these, you're able to keep sending Dragunity monsters, keep special summoning it out and equipping, which is extremely good. And the other thing is this is your backup plan if you have, say, a Phalanx in graveyard and you normal summon Ducks and your opponent Breakthrough Skills, Fiendish Chains, Veilers, the Ducks, you're able to then send that Ducks, summon this, equip the Phalanx, and then start synchro climbing, which is really, really good. And the last Dragunity main deck monster is going to be 1 copy of Arma Leviathan. This one has a lot of text, and not a lot of people actually play this one, but I think in this build specifically it is very important, because in this build, how I said that we're trying to take advantage of the OTK potential of it, this, in a sense, late game becomes a one-card Trident Dragion, which is a crazy card. Anyone who plays Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Knows how powerful of a card that is, but this also helps you kind of late game to keep some sort of board presence. What this one does, I'll pull it up here because it does have a lot of text. It's a 2600 attacker, which is really good, and it says you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, very important, from graveyard, by removing from play one face-up monster you control equipped with a Dragunity card or cards. When this card's normal or special summon, you can select a dragon-type monster in your graveyard, accept itself, and equip it to this card. When this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, so meaning by their artifacts or dark hole or anything like that, you can select one other monster that was equipped to this card when it was sent to the graveyard and special summon that monster from the graveyard. So, really cool card, and another thing to note is when it equips a dragon, it doesn't have to be a Dragunity monster, so a dragon-type Dragunity. So when you synchro climb and you go into your things like Stardust Dragon and stuff, if, say, they destroy your Stardust and then later in the turn or something you bring this back, you can equip the Stardust, and then when they out it again, you can summon back the Stardust, again, as long as it was properly summoned. But a very, very good card, and it is level 8, so that's how you get into the Trident Dragion with Phalanx, so really good card. Moving on, we play some extenders, which are 2 copies of Garuda the Wind Spirit. This one, it can't be normal summoned or set, and it must be special summoned by banishing a wind monster from your graveyard, and then it has another effect that doesn't really come up that's based on changing battle positions of opponents' monsters. The key thing with this is simply it is a level 4 winged beast, which a lot of the synchros require like a dragon tuner and then a winged beast non-tuner, so this is just the best option for that. And if you're able to send like a Tempest to graveyard and then banish the Tempest and summon this, you can then search a Phalanx if you don't have one already, and because that was a special summon, you can then normal the Phalanx and start synchro summoning. So very good card. Originally I only wanted to play one, but over time this card is just so good. 1 copy of Mist Valley Baby Rock. What this one does is when it's sent directly from the hand to the graveyard, you can special summon it. Very, basic effect, and one of the synchros does add and discard, so you're able to trigger this off of that. 1 copy of Zephyros the Elite, because again, you're able to search this and then discard. One of the synchros does add dragon and winged beast type monsters to hand, so it's just a way to get an additional extender, which is really cool. 1 copy of Kokimir Drago. It's very common in Dragunity to play a copy of this. 1, because this is also searchable, but 2, because it stops both players from special summoning light and dark monsters, and a lot of the cards in the extra deck for this deck are going to be wind, so it doesn't really interfere with this deck. And again, this deck can have a problem against those artifact decks, so this is a way to help against those in the main deck specifically. 1 copy of Tempest. Usually you're just using this more so for the when it gets banished effect, so that you're able to search, but also the hand effect to add a wind dragon monster from deck to hand. To add one is very, very important. After that, the last main monster of the deck is going to be Red MD. Don't pay attention to this version. The version that this deck plays is going to be the unerrated version, so the soft once per turn to special summon a dragon monster from hand or graveyard. So, if this leaves the field and you resummon it, you can get the effect again, and it also obviously is just very large. It is a way to help you OTK, which is very nice. The last couple monsters I chose were 4 hand traps. I chose to play 2 copies of Max C and 2 copies of DD Crow. DD Crow, obviously, in my opinion, is the best hand trap in H.A.T format, closely followed by Max C. And so the thing is Wing Beasts are all searchable in this deck, so I play 2 because it is searchable for that reason. And then 2 Max C is a little less common, but this deck doesn't play any trap cards because your combo pieces are so important. And originally I was considering playing a couple trap cards, but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of came to the conclusion that if I'm not playing that many trap cards, when I do play a trap, my opponent is probably going to have some sort of response to it, whether that's like an Artifact Ignition, Double Cyclone, MST, etc. So it's better to just have hand traps that you can interact with the opponent and potentially stop their turn without giving them the chance to actually respond to your stuff in terms of if it's a set card. So that's why I chose these. It's been very good for me, and I can't really say enough about it. Deck space is extremely tight in this deck too, so that's also been a problem, especially in the extra deck, but we'll talk about that in a bit. For the spell cards, which there's a lot, 3 copies of Upstart for consistency, 3 copies of Dragon Shrine simply as more copies of Foolish Burial, 3 copies of Instant Fusion because extra extenders means you can keep playing, and that's really, really good in this deck, specifically so that you can help OTK. 3 copies of Forbidden Lance. It was between Lance and MST, and I chose Lance because going second, it's better to just have protection from the actual threat card rather than MSTing, potentially hitting a bluff or a dead card that you didn't really care about and then getting hit with the real threat. So Lance just felt better. 3 copies of Soul Charge because, a lot of times if your opponent does break your board, you did commit a lot into it, so having that follow-up, or if you see a lot of your cards to dump cards, but not a lot to actually get your play started with, say, a normal summon, then Soul Charge is the best go-to. 2 copies of Cards of Consonance. I know we're only playing 4 targets for this, but they're searchable and recurable, so this is completely fine as a 2 of just to get deeper into the deck. 1 copy of Gold Sark to banish the Tempest and search any dragon. And then another key thing with this is against the slower decks, you can you're probably going to survive a couple turns, so you can actually just search whatever you need with that. And lastly, 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Now, I've seen some builds play things like Summoner Monk, and I think the extra deck space is simply just too tight to fully take advantage of Summoner Monk, in my opinion at least. And even the main deck, I wanted to play a lot of different things. Like, for example, I even considered playing things like Burial from a Different Dimension, just so that I could recur the Tempest so I can keep getting searches and things when it gets banished. But I wanted to keep it at 40, but I could definitely see this deck going well over 40 if need be. Moving on to the extra deck. 2 copies of Dragunity Knight Vajrayana. This is your main synchro. It needs a dragon tuner and a non-tuner wing beast type monster. When it's synchro summoned, you can target a level 3 or lower Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip it with this card. And so basically that's why I said Dux is important with Phalanx, because you can Dux Phalanx and then make this, and then this can re-equip the Phalanx. Phalanx can move forward and you can make a level 8 synchro. And then it also has the effect that once per turn you can send an equip card equipped to this card to the graveyard and double this card's attack until the end of this turn, so it can become a 38 beater. That effect doesn't come up too often because, again, you're usually just trying to synchro climb. After that, 2 copies of Dragunity Knight Gay Dirge. This one has the same requirements, and it's a level 6 as well, and this is the one that I said is kind of your searcher, and what this one does is once per turn, you can add 1 level 4 or lower dragon or wing beast type monster from deck to hand, and then discard a dragon or wing beast type monster. So if you search Baby Rock with this, or have Baby Rock in hand, you could search basically anything, and then discard the Baby Rock, which will then special summon, and then you can synchro with these. Another thing to note is that it is a soft once per turn, and it's not a synchro summon type effect. So if this leaves the field, and then you say Soul Charge it back, you can use the effect in additional time, which is very good as well. You can kind of shape your hand and graveyard however you need it. After that, 1 copy of Stardust Dragon, 1 copy of Stardust Spark. It's very common to get both on the field in one turn, which is nice. I wanted 1 more level 8, so I went with Scrap Dragon. After that, the last synchro is 1 copy of Trident Dragion. This one, I'll pull it up here. The requirements are 1 Dragon Tuner and 1 non-tuner Dragon type monster, which is extremely easy for this deck to make. It must be Synchro Summon, and when it's Synchro Summon, you can target up to 2 other cards you control, destroy those targets, and if you do, for each destroyed with this card, gains 1 additional attack during each battle phase, so this can technically attack up to 3 times if you destroy 2 cards, and it is 3,000 attack, so, you know, usually that is going to be game. After that, we play 1 copy of Constellar Ptolemy M7 to, you know, recur resources or bounce opponents stuff. 1 copy of Hieratic Dragon King Atum. This basically can fetch your red MD from deck, which is really good. 1 copy of 101, 1 copy of Xyz, 1 Emerald to put back resources, and 1 copy of Dweller. Now, again, the extra deck space in this deck is very, very tight. So I wanted to just go with generically good things. So, for example, Abyss Dweller is great against the hands. Daigusto Emerald, because the extra deck space is so tight, I wanted a card that can put back the extra deck cards I do have and give me an additional draw. Xyz is just really good. And then 101, it was between 101 and Lightning Chidori or Queen Dragon Jin or a copy of Lavalval Chain. And because I'm not playing the Summoner Monks, I figured that the Lavalval Chain isn't as needed. And then also because I'm not playing the Summoner Monks, I chose not to play Queen Dragon Jin, especially because we're already playing cards like Soul Charge and just a lot of other things. I preferred something that felt a little more useful, and 101 felt the most useful to out cards like Ophion. So that's why I decided to go with that. And then lastly, for the instant fusion target, I chose to play Malevis. It's a wing beast wind monster, so it kind of just fits the archetype perfectly. But anyways, guys, that is the deck. There's a lot of changes you could realistically make, and there are other versions of the deck that maybe I'll show off at some point, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out. Share this video with your friends. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, like I said, and anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.